Alrighty, this is it, our final week in this class, and I'm recording this actually right before we head out for Thanksgiving because my goal had been to get this course ready by the time Thanksgiving came, and I did, so I'm happy about that. And I also just finished the final touches on my site, so I'll go over that in a minute. So let's talk about what you need to do this week. So this week you're going to be taking your sites from the private repo and creating a subdirectory in your public repo called final, and then copying your site over into there. Okay, so that's just logistically what you want to do. And then like we did in week 1 and 4, where we actually used the GitHub IO page URL, you'll need to make sure that is ready to go. Again, just for putting a / and then the final folder name on there to make that work. So that should be, if you've forgotten, go into GitHub, go into settings, go into pages, and it should be there. You should not unpublish it because it creates a little bit of a pain to bring it back. So if you're playing with it and it's not working, generally it's because there's been an issue with the last time you pushed. I've had a couple students run into issues where they somehow nested the repos together. I had this happen twice this semester. Somehow they cloned the repo into a repo, and when you do that, at least for the GitHub pages, and in general it's not a great idea, but that will specifically make that URL no longer render. And you can generally find a error on the commit because there's a build process that happens on the back end. Now that's maybe more than you wanted to know, but you need to have that URL working so that you can share your site with everybody. And that's why the importance of making sure your references haven't been pointed to a particular directory, like on the links I saw on the arefs. And on the images you can, but you start with image / image name. Okay, making sure those images are optimized and only the ones you're using. Okay, so that's just in general. I'm going to go over the rest of the requirements in a minute, but I just want to kind of start there because those are important concepts to make sure that you're getting those. Like this would be my recommendation right now, because you still have a little bit of work to do to your sites to finish them up. But right now, make sure that URL, that you have that, and you could even create the folder and start pushing over some code if you wanted to, just to test it out. That way you're not waiting. Because the other thing about this week is our timing changes this week. Because this is finals week of the semester, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. Okay, and that's kind of the second point. The ending days for the class. So here's, and I'll just move over now to the course final project. So this is what I was talking about, right? Taking your new folder, creating that new folder, name it final, copy the ending code, and make sure, right, should be everything works, and then commit with setup done. Okay, so that you'll need to do. Now, in this case, you're going to create a new page called contact. Some of you were already trying to create a form. Now's the time. So if you created it somewhere else, do it here. Create a form called contact, link it from your footer, and include it in your site HTML. Okay, so on this page, create a form that the user would fill out to contact you. Use field set label, have at least 3 different inputs to use, and use the required. I didn't put that here, but you also on the form submission, you can put the HTTP bin that Dave showed us in the HTML lecture, just so that when the user submits something happens. Okay. Okay, so before the form or somewhere, write something about yourself and why you created the site. So create a little more content there. Make sure you style your form. That's important. And when you're done with that, form done. And then make sure the site, and in this case should be the form, should be aligned with the rest of your design. It shouldn't look different. It should be styled in the same way. You'll see this when I show you mine in a minute. Okay, make sure it validates your HTML and CSS and all your images and links are working correctly. Now that actually kind of applies to the whole thing, But that gets to the second point, is to get all the points for this, because this is your last step. Now, because I added one of a project, it makes the projects that I said were 10% each a little less, but not that much less. So they're still all very important. So to get all the points possible, you need to be having responsive, your sites need to be responsive using Grid or Flexbox, using responsive images, and at least one example of using that background cover. You saw mine before, but I'll show you an update I did to mine, not to the cover, but just to my site in general. Your metadata needs to have a unique title and a description for each page. Some of you weren't doing descriptions. That's in your meta. So make sure in the head section of the HTML. Fix any issues I pointed out on the previous part. So here's the point, and really many of you were fixing them along the way. I at this point have seen some of step 2s and all the ones that were submitted of step 1. I call it, should have been part 1. Okay. And then report any changes you needed to make, so you can determine your own commits there. And then in your post, provide us, and this is what I was talking about before, your GitHub pages URL, right? Don't forget to put the /final. So you should always, when you post that URL, make sure it works for you. Do remember that from the time you push code, it does take a moment, depending on the time of day and what's going on, for that content to be refreshed on that URL. So just know that that's true, right? And in your post, in the reply that you're doing with your URL, give yourself a score on your knowledge of HTML and CSS at the beginning of the class and now at the end. Like, I feel like I started with a 4 and I've ended with a whatever, right? Or if it's lower or higher or wherever. I just am curious, right? And then you need to review at least one of your classmates' site and give them feedback. So this is worth 20 points. And again, if somebody's already done this, and you'll see the timing changes with this, and this is why I've done it, again, only do a second review if you're at a point that everybody else has already gotten one and there's just nobody else to give one to. Then you can repeat. Otherwise, make sure you are looking at everyone's, are giving people who haven't gotten reviews done. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so review at least one of your classmates' sites and make them spread that around. Okay, now your reply with your URL is going to be due by December 6th in the morning. So it's a new day, it's a different day than we're used to, and it's a different time. Okay, I want those in so you know if you're working late, you want to consider the due date the 5th. Okay, so if we were looking at the calendar, right? So here's when that URL, that morning of, and again, you can see, actually, I dated the time. I'll double check to make sure that's true. Right, so if you're watching attendance here, that's why I'm going over it here so you have the new dates. And then by the 7th, and that's what I've said here, is you need to have done that reply. Okay? Okay, so, and by the morning of, so then when I am, by that morning of the 7th, which is the Thursday, right, you need to have those replies in there. And then that's when, and by the way, also if you're doing late work, it also needs to be done at this point. Right, so I'll put this on the attendance post. I don't have it lined out right now, but I will. Okay, so in addition to that, in addition to the replies being due by 8 o'clock, also any late work you are going to submit needs to be there on that 7th. Okay, coming back here, I think that should go over it as far as what is required on the final. All right, so I'm going to go over mine in a minute, and I actually have a specific thing I want you to reply with, but I also want to say thank you. This has been a really quick, and I know a lot involved in this course. I feel like if I was to rate myself, I feel like I came in with because I haven't taught this class in a little while, as I said in the beginning, I probably came in with a skill level of maybe 6, and I feel like I'm leaving with like 8 or 9, which feels really good. And I definitely can continue to learn more. I really enjoy that part of it. So here's my site. This is what I ended up with. I ended up changing my color palette because of the image, and I found in Cooler I could actually upload an image, which was really fun. I could upload an image, and I did that, and I got a new palette, which was fun. But there's also a nice thing you can do here on the color. There's a nice option. I'll show you this. I found this. Is you can drag this over. You can click on this, and it will actually allow you to go over and pick. Now I'm not going to change that, but that would be one of the ways you can do it. I did have to do a little bit of a drop shadow on this because I changed that, so I'm not totally happy with that, but in general I'm pretty happy with the outcome. I didn't like the side colors. I'm not completely happy with this, but it looks a little better, and this is what happens when you're building stuff. You're not, I mean, you're generally not always satisfied with it, but you're feeling like, okay, I got this, right? So I did, so my contact form, so down at the bottom, right? So down in your footer, there's my contact form. I did put another image on there, and then there it is. And then let's see, going back to home, right? I had my start. I don't love this one compared, so I probably might play a little bit with that one, but that's okay. I think it's a really good start. There's the extra content I added for P3 for the assignment. I have a Y here. It's got some, I think, really good content in it. And then my ethics state. This was from last time, so this is no different. But I did add to my site. I changed, like I said, my color palette. I did update my sitemap to make sure I included all that. So the key to part of this is also, right, having that unique, right? You need to have every title needs to be unique. Every description when you're looking in the HTML head section for that, the meta, that's what I was talking about earlier. Everything needs to work. No broken images, which is why, when I had been saying through the last couple of parts is making sure those references don't include the folders that are higher in the structure, because then when you're moving like you are this time, right, then it can break things, and that's why you want to make sure those references and the sources are handled correctly as far as the folder structure goes. And you want to make sure you've optimized your images and only have images, because that's one of the things I will look for when I grade, is like only have images you're using, because they got pretty voluminous. I definitely am going to next time do the folder structure a little different for the final project, but it was a learning process. Oh, I did also make my site. And it's so funny because I bet you all have this. Like, which resolution does it look best at, right? So here's my smallest, and then there's the 7, and then it comes out and it's like, yeah, it looks pretty good there. But, it also drops, it responds here, renders differently. So, like I said, I felt really good about this. And I hope you did as well. Okay, last thing. I want to say thanks because this is it's a privilege to do a job like this, and I really take it to heart, and I really try to give you the skills to help you further your skill set. And so one of the things I'm going to ask you to do in this reply, and I did this in my JavaScript class, and it was really great because I really am going to use it. So I ask you to consider the same thing. It's like, now that you're at the end, what advice would you give the students next semester for how to succeed in this class? Because it is important to me that students succeed, and I definitely lost more this semester than I like. But I also know the work level was quite high, which, I mean, we try to set the expectation coming in for students. This is a 3-unit compressed class. This is also a class that follows a previous class. We don't require it because, and makes me think we really should, because many of you would have benefited from 82, taken 82 before 85. But I also get sometimes it's like you want to fill in your schedule and get things done. But I do think understanding that there was a previous class that was recommended, before this one probably helps enlighten maybe some of you around some of the quickness of the topics. But anyway, whatever it is you would tell my future students, or the future students of not mine, but the future students of this class, like what would you tell them how to succeed? Because you are the best person to give them that advice right now. I mean, even though you're not completely done, you've been through it enough to know, like, here's what, if I was giving myself advice at the beginning of the semester, I would have said to succeed in this class. And anyway, I appreciate it, and I really hope to use some of this content for next semester. Now, next semester I will be changing the course in the following way. The group work is actually not going to be for that first couple weeks. Actually, what we're going to end up doing is I'm going to start the project sooner. So like the content creation and all that will be done as soon as we get through the semantic HTML. From Dave's course, so that will become sooner, and there'll be more steps along the way. And then I'm going to increase the percentage of the attendance. Right now it doesn't count towards your grade, but I'm going to use that as kind of our discussion, our group discussions. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. But that's actually one of the things I need to do. Again, I've said that this was actually recorded right before Thanksgiving, because now it's time for me to get this class ready for next semester. Now, a couple things just cleanup wise is I will, once the semester's over, and remember, you need to have that done by Thursday morning. I will collect everything, reply to any emails, probably try to post my grades by Thursday. You won't see them for a couple of weeks, but what that also means is, because this class is taught next semester at the back 9, but I still like to get everything cleaned up. So I'll take Discord, and I'll take students that are in the private group, and I'll move them out. You are still in the server. I say please hang out if you like. I'd love to have some more students sitting on the server. Been some great interaction for this class, which I've really appreciated. And also I will be making the course organization. I'll be taking you out of there, and that'll probably happen sometime over the holiday. And then I will be deleting all those. Now you have this all this content on your site, so just make sure you're aware that this will eventually be gone out of our course organization, because new students will be coming in. Anyway, a lot there. Thanks so much. Have a great winter break if you're not seeing this till later. And I look forward to maybe seeing you in my JavaScript class if you haven't taken JavaScript yet. I love teaching JavaScript. And then if not, maybe I see you in my 82 class, which is actually starting at the first part of next semester. All right, have a good one. See you later.